Mr. Rubo here. And today we are continuing with our 3.4, 3.5 coverage of sine and cosine graphs. And actually, we're going to revisit FRQ3. We did this in 3.1. We looked at this question. It's the exact same question, but now we're actually going to see a few more parts of the FRQ thrown in, the type of questions you can see with FRQ3. So again, we looked at this already. It's the same exact scenario. So if you don't remember this one, go back to my 3.1 video. So just to kind of revisit, we have a clock mounted on the wall. It is 8-inch long, minute hand, and the height of the clock is 120 inches. Time equals 0 is when the hand is pointed directly straight up, but it's moving quicker than it should, and it's repeating it's getting back up, directly up after 30 minutes instead of every 60 minutes. All right, so we're now looking at the distance from the minute hands, the endpoint of the minute hand to the floor, and they tell us it's periodic. They give us this function, or they tell us a function that's periodic. All this, give us these points. We did this. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go through this first part, this part A, kind of quick, because again, it's telling us from here to here, 120. This is another 8 inches. So this coordinate point here at time 0 is going to be 128. Well, if I talk about here, well, this point would be half of the full 30 minutes that it takes to go back up. It would be 15 minutes. Well, that would be 120 minus 8. So this is 112. And then, talking about these guys, well, these are at 120. And it's 7.5. And then this is 22.5 minutes. And then we are back at the top after 30 minutes. We are back to 128. Okay, so again, these points, I'm going a little quick because we've seen this before, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. So now we can go ahead and write all of these coordinate points like we did before. Technically, your answers can vary, but these kind of the ones that I feel make the most sense. So 0, 128, 7.5 was at the midline, or it's the middle of the clock, 120. This is 15, oh, my pen decided to die again. Come on. 15, 112. Then 22.5, 120. And then finally, we made it back at 30 minutes. Okay, so there we go. There's all that. Now, previously, we didn't know the equations of this and all the information. Now we do. So, what we're going to do is find each of these things. Technically, the period we could have found, or we knew what it was based on what they told us. The period is 30 minutes. It's how long it took it to get back up to the top. But we also see it in our graph, right? It's from point F to P is 30. The frequency is 1 over 30. So it's just the reciprocal. Oh, man, my handwriting is 1 over 30. The amplitude is the distance from the midline to a maximum or minimum, which in this case is 8. And then the midline is at the middle of the graph, which it's always the horizontal line, and it's the y equals 120. And they told us that was the middle of the clock anyway. So technically I didn't need to know this, or I didn't need to graph it to know all this. They kind of told us all this information anyways. All right, so then part C, which again, another question that could be asked along with the ones that we covered in 3.1, find two intervals for which the graph of h is both decreasing and concave up. So we want decreasing, so we want it going down, but we want it we want it concave up, so we want where the values are decreasing at an increasing rate. Okay, So I'm going to go ahead and look at the graph and see, okay, concave up. I'm going to start with that. Well, it doesn't really matter what I start with. So here's my decreasing part that I can see from F to J. Here's a concave up part. Well, the part that overlaps is G to J. So there we go. There's my two answers. So find two intervals for which this happens. Yeah, so we're going to say from 7.5 to 15. But the problem is that's only one interval. This is testing us on our understanding of periodic because we need a second interval. We don't have a second interval on this graph. Well, at least figured out. We technically know it's going to be right here. Okay. Well, instead of trying to figure out what those points are, all we have to know is our period. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 30. So we're going to say 37.5 and then add 30 here. And guess what? We just came up with a second interval. We can come up with a lot more just by adding or subtracting 30, and we're going to get more and more answers. But we only needed these two. These two would probably make the most sense. But again, there's lots of different answers here. Find the one we can find, and then use your period to find as many more as you want. All right, cool. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.